Hello everyone. So today we will be covering how to calculate pH when you have a strong acid and a strong base, B, when you have a weak acid and a strong base, and C, when you have a strong acid and weak base. Now it's important to note that there are 4 scenarios that each of these topics that can happen in each of these topics. So for example, if you have a strong acid and a strong base, so topic A, you can calculate the pH, the initial pH. You can calculate number 2, pH after adding 10 milliliters of base. You can also calculate pH at equivalence point, and you can also calculate pH after adding 35 milliliters of base. So first we're calculating the pH, and this would be the concentration of hydrogen. And since HCl is a strong acid, the concentration of HCl should be the concentration of the H plus ions. So this is 0.1 molar. Using the formula pH equals negative log H plus. If we plug this in, we should get pH equals 1. Next, we're going to calculate the pH after adding 10 milliliters of base. So first, we need to figure out the moles of OH minus from the base. So in our question, we have 0.1 molar times 0.01 liter, which is 10 milliliters, gives us 0.001 moles of OH minus. Now we can check the starting moles of H plus, which is 0.1 molar times 25 milliliters, so 0.025 liters, which gives us 0.0025 moles of H plus. Now OH minus H plus, they will neutralize each other. So this means that moles of H plus remaining would be 0.0025 of H plus of the acid, and this will neutralize with 0.01 moles of OH minus, and this means you have 0.0015 mole of H plus left over. So it's important to note that the total volume at this moment is 10 milliliters from the base plus 25 milliliters of the acid. So right now you have 35 milliliters in total. So to calculate the pH, you have the concentration of H plus, so you know that you have 0.0015 mole of H plus divided by the volume, which is 0.035 liters, and this gives us 0.0428 molar. If you plug this into our pH equation, so pH equals negative log H plus, pH equals 1.37. To calculate the pH at equivalence point, this means that the moles of OH is going to be 0.025, and the moles of H plus is also going to be 0.0025 minus 0.0025. Essentially, it means that you have the same amount of moles of acid and base, and when you mix them together, they're going to neutralize, and then you have 0 moles of H plus remaining. And this means that the concentration of H plus and the concentration of OH minus ions are the same, and this means that pH equals 7. Next, we're solving for pH after adding 35 milliliters of base. So first, let's calculate how many moles of OH we have. So this would be 0.0035 moles. And how many moles of H plus we have, and this would be 0.0025. OH minus and H plus, they'll neutralize. This means that moles of OH minus remaining would be 0.0035 minus 0.0025 gives you 0.001. So the total volume would be 25 milliliters of the acid plus 35 milliliters of the base gives you 60 milliliters. So since you have the concentration of OH minus, you have the moles of OH minus, you can find the concentration. So moles of OH minus 0.01 divided by 0.06 liters. This gives you a concentration of 0.0116. Sorry, 0.01667 molar. Using the formula POH equals log OH minus, you get POH equals 1.78, and using the other formula, pH equals 14 minus POH, pH equals 12.22.